there's your knob right there if you need to.
Cool. There's your knob. Well, thank you for identifying it, Chris.
Recon Podcast, Episode 5. Chris Sanchez. Paul Rodriguez in the house. What's going on, Paul?
How y'all feeling tonight?
Oh, man, we feeling good, bro.
Yeah.
I'm feeling real good. Another person that's feeling real good, Jason Garrett and Ezekiel Elliott. That is the hot topic right now. We just said that before we hit the record button. Zeke Elliott finally getting his contract, getting the extension. Now he's talking about he wants to get Dak involved, to get him a contract extension. What does this mean for the Dallas Cowboys? Do you have a hot take, Mr. Paul Rodriguez?
My biggest thought of the day was after Zeke signed, I'm like, who's going to get paid next? Is it going to be Amari, who's nursing an injury right now, or is it going to be Dak? And if you're going to pay Dak, if Zeke is making an average of 17, 18 per year, quarterbacks are often paid quite better than that. Are we really going to pay Dak Prescott $35, $38 million per year? I don't think so. I think this is just another song and dance by the head guy upstairs, Mr. Jerry Jones, to keep his team in the limelight, who really haven't done, 3 playoff victories, 3 wild card berths in 20 years?
Yeah. I mean, I really don't think it moves the needle a whole lot for the Dallas Cowboys as far as like the excitement, because I think most people thought that Zeke was going to sign. Their chances of winning a Super Bowl obviously are better because Zeke Elliott is there.
Sure.
But are they going to win a Super Bowl? I don't know. I don't think so. They were talking about, Zeke Elliott being the ingredient that the Cowboys needed. Yeah, he's one of the ingredients. You need possibly a Hall of Fame running back. They have that. You could use a Hall of Fame quarterback. They don't have that.
You got an average quarterback.
You could use a Hall of Fame wide receiver. They don't have that. You could use a really good offensive line. I think they have that.
Agreed.
You could use just a hard-nosed run-stopping defense, and I don't think they have that. What is your opinion? I
think they have the best front front 7 in the NFL. Their back end, the secondary, especially their safeties, where they royally missed on Earl Thomas to lock that up. When the band basically went to the Dallas Cowboy locker room when Seattle came to town and said, hey, come get me, verbatim. Missed on that one. I understand that Jerry wants to pay young guys to come in who they can kind of possibly develop. I don't care if Rob Marinelli is running the defensive side of the ball. Jerry Jones is doing what he does best, and he's selling the Dallas Cowboys to every Dallas hater in the United States and globally, as well as all the Dallas faithful in the country. It's just another song and dance that Jerry has to drop the news the day before the NFL kicks off on the 5th of September, tomorrow night.
And I could see your point because, Zeke probably wasn't going to get a carry in the preseason anyways. So, why not have this whole show, is he or isn't he, to, get that needle moving to make sure that all the eyes are on the Dallas Cowboys before the season starts. I'm going to get back to your defensive evaluation of the Dallas Cowboys. I do like their front 7. I think they need something a little bit more than Van Der Esch if that defensive unit is going to be elite. Now, another ingredient for the Cowboys, Hall of Fame head coach. They don't have that either.
They have average head coach and they have an average quarterback.
Super average head coach, average quarterback. I would say close to elite defense, I guess, with the front 7. Hall of Fame running back, wide receiver, above average in Amari Cooper?
I would say he's a solid quarterback. He's a solid wide receiver 1, yes.
Okay. Now,
Hall of Fame, questionable.
Right. Do you have a, say, Alvin Harper style complimentary guy on that squad? Michael Gallup, maybe?
If he develops, depends on if his hands got better. That's the biggest thing that I want to see from him. But nobody pulls the top off the defense like Irvin did before in the 90s, and I think that's the last guy because Dez did great, but Dez had good speed, but he had physicality was what he played with best, and that's what got him up most of the times.
Yeah, and I'm going to say, so in my little evaluation of Dallas Cowboys right now, I just don't think they have the ingredients to win a Super Bowl. Jerry Jones said that Zeke Elliott isn't the ingredient that we need to win a Super Bowl. In fact, Jerry, I think he is the only ingredient that you have right now to win a Super Bowl. Your thoughts?
Besides the offensive line and Zeke, I think that they have probably the best inside linebackers in the NFL with Jalen Smith and with also Van Der Esch.
Nah.
You don't think so?
I don't like Van Der Esch.
Okay. I think the guy has great sideline to sideline speed. I don't think he can cover in the
He can't
flanks.
tackle.
You don't? Okay.
He can't tackle.
I disagree with that.
He can't tackle.
I disagree. But the biggest thing, the reason why I disagree is because he's a coverage linebacker. And that's what he's going to do well. He's going to cover smaller guys. He's not going to be your Ray Lewis who's going to stuff everything in between the tackles. He ain't going to do that. But I think that's where Jalen Smith comes out. I think their deficiencies get hidden a lot of times by their front four. And the front four also create a really good avenue for pass rushing, which kind of lightens the load too, because if they know, the offense knows that they're going against is going to be getting that pass rush up the field, a lot of times it's going to be dives or it's going to be screens out of the backfield by the running back. And what are you doing? You're tackling the space, and that's what the Cowboy linebackers do well.
Yeah, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know what it is about Leighton Van Der Esch. Everybody loves him. I don't know. Is there something wrong? Is there something wrong with me?
Is it because he
Is
played,
it me?
I don't know. I was going to ask you, is it because he played like 6-man football in Utah or Idaho, wherever he's from?
Nah, and he played at Boise State. State? That's how you say it.
Is that right?
Boise State.
Oh, where's the inflection?
Boise. It's not Boise. Is it Boise or Boise? We always have this conversation about
I'm gonna say Boise.
Pronunciation.
But I'm a Texan, so I don't really know.
I think it's Boise. I'll have to ask again.
Is it like Hawaii, like Hawaii?
Yeah, it's like Waxahachie, which is not Waxahachie, exactly, Sarah.
Did you ever get your friend on that to confirm?
Yeah, I did.
Awesome.
I texted her. Shout out Kim. I was like, hey Kim. I was like, I texted her. I was like, hey, I had this debate with somebody the other day about the pronunciation of Waxahachie, and she just put LOL with a crying laughing face.
I'd be curious to see how many times her friends reach out to her for that like verification.
I bet you I'm not the only one.
I believe it. I believe that.
All right, Zach Lucero not making it tonight to the Recon podcast. Episode 5 here. Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez, Zeke Elliott is once again back on the roster with the Dallas Cowboys. Not like he was ever off the roster. He just wasn't signed. It wasn't because he was actually going to play in the preseason. Paul and I agree that this was more of a show put on by Jerry Jones. Jerry throwing out some little quips here and there, saying that Zeke who, he's not the ingredient, blah, blah, blah. I don't expect the Dallas Cowboys to win the Super Bowl this year. I wouldn't be surprised with a run in the playoffs.
Yes.
But I would say 10-win season, wild card playoff win.
I'm going to go a little bit higher on that. If a pass interference or a turnover goes Dallas's way, they could play in the NFC Championship and possibly play in the Super Bowl, but I don't think they'll win it.
I'm not convinced with Dak Prescott. Anyways, we can move on now to high school football. Recon Podcast, Episode 5. Now, last week was huge. We had some history made by Weiss. We had some great games, a lot of them going into overtime. Some of them, just really close. I went out to the Austin High Conley game. That ended up being a really close win for Austin High. Thursday night, tomorrow night, or actually Friday night, Austin High and Westwood are going to be playing. RJ Martinez, quarterback for Westwood. Charles Wright for Austin High. Basically, whichever defense makes more than one stop is going to win that football game. I think that's what's going to happen in the Westwood versus Austin High game. I'm probably going to try to check that one out. Tomorrow night on Thursday, one of the games that Snoop and I we're interested in watching is Cedar Creek and Aikens. And the reason why we were talking about that game, Paul, is because both these teams are 1-0 right now.
Yeah.
And either Cedar Creek or the Aikens Eagles is going to be 2-0 after tomorrow night. I think that's huge for both of these programs.
I would say yes to that. And I really think it's going to be the Aikens Eagles, who had that big win last week and pretty much just shut down Crockett. Mm-hmm. But I like Akins in this game. It's going to be very curious for me to see kind of like if this is going to be a defensive struggle or if it just turns into a shootout. I mean, we saw Akins be able to score 42 last week. What was that score in that Cedar Creek game last week?
Cedar Creek with the Westwood Warriors on my mind again. Cedar Creek with the win, 47-0 over Northeast High School, also known as Reagan. Huge win for the Cedar Creek Eagles. Northeast actually playing Bastrop tomorrow night as well. I think Snoop and I are going to go to that game first over at Nelson Field, check out Bastrop and Northeast, and then head down to Cedar Creek and Akins. Yeah, 47 points plus a goose egg.
Akins had 42-3 or 6 last week, I believe, over Crockett.
Yeah, so I think that's going to be a huge game for both of these teams. Both these Cedar Creek and Akins struggled, in the past, and just for one of them to be 2-0 after week 2, I think that would be huge for both of these teams.
Especially for Akins, because next week they start district play, which, I mean, they're in that large district with Westlake, Lake Travis, Hayes. So for them to get two wins off the bat, I think would be paramount for them.
Yeah. Also tomorrow night, Vandergrift visiting Colleen Ellison. We got Colleen and Vista Ridge, and Waco University taking on Travis. So some Thursday night action. Also Friday night, Conley, Del Valley. That's going to be a huge game.
Chris, that's
going to be I think just a track meet.
You want to go listen to Austin, Texas, surrounding Austin, Texas area. You want to go see a show? Go pay your $10 and watch those young men with the underclass talent put on big show.
Yeah, last week I saw, went to that Conley game. I'll tell you what, Demetrius Gardner-Holmes, running back for the Conley Cougars. If you don't know this guy, you haven't seen him run. He straight up put a beast mode on Austin High, won 50-yard run to the end zone, and I think he broke about every single tackle that was attempted on him, which was probably about 7 or 8. And this guy is the real deal. You got to go check him out, and we'll see if that Del Valley defense can stop him. LBJ on the road at Los Fresnos. I believe they're going all the way to Los Fresnos. I don't know that for sure. Westlake and Cypress Ranch Friday night as well. Westlake coming off that goose egg win over Belton. And they're going to try to get this revenge game. They lost last year, of course, to Cy Ranch at home. They're going to be at the Berry Center in Houston to try to get that win and go 2-0 themselves. Anderson and Rouse Friday night as well. Cedar Ridge and Cedar Park, which is, in my opinion, probably the game of the night Friday night.
Yeah, definitely. And I want to say if Cedar Park is definitely going to have to bounce back after that tough, difficult loss.
They haven't scored any points yet.
Well, I got a feeling Ryder Hernandez is going to make sure that Cedar Park has a big voice and puts out a big redemption win Friday night because, I mean, they got hurt in the polls. They were ranked in the top 10. A lot of rankings that they had for them, but Vandy shut them down last week. It'll be interesting to see how well they play this week.
Well, I mean, of course, this is going to be their second 6A team in a row to be or for them to take on. So you got to kind of take that in mind as well. But, I mean, Cedar Park has handled 6A teams in the past.
Right.
I don't think this has anything to do with Cedar Park being bad or losing any talent. I just think Vandergrift and Cedar Ridge are getting better as programs. So Vandergrift for sure had a wonderful season last season. I think Cedar Ridge with the big win over Temple last week at Kelly Reeves, they're just right there on the edge of making a state title run. In my opinion, they have all of the ingredients that you need. They got Jalen Brown, the quarterback position. Deuce Vaughn running. Got to get that defense rolling a little bit though. Of course, Temple. They're an offensive juggernaut anyway, so this allowed 29 points. At least they kept them under 30. Yeah, I guess that's a win against Temple.
Well, Jalen Brown, the Texas Southern commit, I think is going to do a better job this year. With last year's a first-year starter, so I think him with the tandem, him and Deuce Vaughn in the backfield, with those two, who knows what kind of points could be scored. I definitely think there's going to be more than 17 points scored in this game with Cedar Park than last week, even though they didn't score any. But Ryder Hernandez, I think is going to have a big game, and that's going to be the testament of the Cedar Park redemption story coming into week 2 in the 2019 season.
All right. Also, Friday night, Canyon Lake at Weiss. Of course, the Weiss Wolves getting their first ever varsity win over Leander last week. Possibility to go 2-0. I think they have got a real good possibility of going 2-0 against Canyon Lake. They're going to be at home.
Right.
They're going to be hyped up.
Yeah.
They know what it's like, to taste victory now. And I tell you what, this Weiss defense, I talked about it last week. If they come out like they did against Leander or just, swarm into the football, Edric Whitley, cornerback, guy's getting some offers now. He's a little bit undersized.
Yeah.
He can break on the ball, and he's not afraid to put his nose, in between, some shoulder pads when he's making that tackle. So I think this defense, they just need to play like they played last week, and I really think that the Weiss Wolves can go 2-0. We also have Mansfield Timberview visiting Lake Travis. Lake Travis coming off of the surprise loss, 35-14 against the Arlington Martin Warriors. Lake Travis, how do they bounce back this week?
Well, I think the defense needs to play a little bit more cohesively. They probably maybe underestimated Martin going into that game last week, but I think Hudson Card throws the ball around a little bit more this week. We all know Lake McCree's out, but Grayson Sandlin, I think he's going to have to be the big guy that steps up. And I know he did everything in his power last week, but I think they're going to ask a little bit more of them. You may see the ball coming out faster, just so that there could be a little bit more timing, and that's probably what Lake Travis is missing right now. But I think they're going to definitely bounce back with Mansfield coming in. All
right, so Lake Travis trying to get that win, or the first win of the 2019 season. Of course, we all know Lake Travis back in 2016 lost their first game.
Yep.
Went on to win state. So I'm not worried about the Lake Travis Cavaliers right now. Friday night as well, Westwood and Austin High. We talked about that game a little bit earlier. McCallum and Lehman. That's an interesting game. McCallum kind of getting schooled last week against Anderson in the Taco Shack Bowl.
Right.
Losing by 22 points. Lehman Lobos, all of a sudden 1-0.
Got the dub last week.
They did. And so they're a team similar to Weiss, similar to Aikens, similar to Cedar Creek, not used to that win column, probably want more. And I think this is a huge game for the Lehman Lobos and the McCallum Knights. McCallum needs to get this win to get some confidence. Lehman Lobos want to keep that confidence. I'm really, really excited about this game with the Knights and the Lobos.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for McCallum is the relationship between Jackson Rosales and Takai Satberry. Depending on how the relationship between them grew through week 2 is really going to depend on how well they do. We all know that McCallum has the pieces in place. Unfortunately, they don't have Cole Davis with the services right now. But Lehman, I think, finally put things together. They're playing together. They're playing as a team. Even though that we may have thought they didn't have a team coming into this season, but they got the dub last week against Canyon. I think Lehman pulls the upset and gets the W to go 2-0 in the 2019 season. All
right. So also Friday night, Glenn and McNeil, both sitting at 0-1. McNeil, of course, losing at Del Valle last week. Glenn Grizzlies, for some reason, decided to take on Liberty Hill, their first game of the season. We all know what Liberty Hill can do, and they lost pretty big last week, but they're going to look for their first win against the McNeil Mavericks. Then we got the game that Paul is going to go to, I believe, Hayes and Dripping Springs. That's going to be a big one. Paul, what are you excited about on that one?
Well, I was kind of thinking about it. I was like, man, is Dripping Springs in Hayes County? And sure enough, we're calling this one the Hayes County Classic. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Dripping Springs is going to handle Hayes as they did last year. Dripping coming off that victory last week, 14-13 over Kerrville-Tivy. Hayes is all over social media talking about how they are ready to show the world who they are, and they think they're a little underrated. I don't think that. I know what this offense can do. I believe in Coach Goad and his system. It's just going to be, really curious to see how that young quarterback for Dripping Springs handles things as Hayes coming into town with Preston Alford at the helm to lead the Dripping Springs Tigers. I think he'll be comfortable. He'll be at his home stadium, but Hayes is going to be coming to do everything they can to disrupt his timing with his receivers, and I think Hayes is going to drive the ball and control clock to pull out that W over Dripping Springs at Dripping Springs on Friday night.
All right, Stony Point at Harker Heights as well. Stony Point sitting at 1-0. Georgetown and Waco High. Friday night we got Hutto and Liberty Hill as well. That's another one, man. I already picked Cedar Ridge and Cedar Park as the game of the night for Friday night. I know you're going to the Drip and Hayes game, but Hutto Liberty Hill, that's going to be a fun one too.
Chris, that game I think is going to really put Liberty Hill on the map if they can pull the W, because there is all kinds of talent on that Hutto team, and we know that. But I think Hutto pulls out the victory by a narrow margin over Liberty Hill, because Liberty Hill is just a well-disciplined team. And shout out to Glenn, though, for putting them on week 1 of the 2019 season. That just means they want to get better, and they need to know what a quality team looks like.
Yeah, Maynard taking on Copper's Cove as well Friday night. Maynard coming off of that overtime loss in Corpus Christi against Weslaco East. Doesn't get any easier with Copper's Cove Friday night, so that's going to be another away game. It was technically a home game for the Maynard Mustangs.
Right.
The New Tech Titans were playing at home that night, so what happened out in Maynard is the field house isn't quite ready. They didn't have there's a lot of construction going on over at the Titan field. So they're having to, really they were having to share the Maynard Athletic Complex. So one of these games had to get played home but away for the Maynard Mustangs. So Maynard going to Copper's Cove this Friday night. Marble Falls and Burnett. We got Elgin and Brian Rudder. Elgin Wildcats, I'll tell you what, they didn't look bad last week.
Yeah.
They lost to LBJ, but they really held their own. I mean, it was a 35-27 win. Mm-hmm. They forced some turnovers. They moved the ball. They did well against a very talented LBJ team. I think the Elgin Wildcats have what it takes to take on or go to Bryan and beat this Rudder team for sure, in my opinion. Also, Blanco St. Michael's. We got Hendrickson at Smithson Valley as well. That's a big game, Paul. Round Rock and Belton. Belton coming off that just shellacking over at Chaparral Stadium. Round Rock looking very, very good. We have Gonzales at Crockett as well. Friday night, Eastview sitting at 1-0 with that huge win over Westwood last week, taking on New Braunfels Canyon. And finally, New Braunfels Unicorns and the Seguin Matador. So just a huge slate of football to come on Friday night. We've got some Thursday night games, so we're really excited about everything here. I'm going to probably check out tomorrow night. Snoop and I are going to go to Northeast Bastrop and then probably try to make it all the way down south and see that Cedar Creek Aikens game. Friday night, I don't know what I want to do. I kind of want to do Hutto Liberty Hill. I want to do I really do want to see Cedar Ridge and Cedar Park. I know there's going to be a lot of people there. There's going to be plenty of coverage, but I really want to see these two football teams because I really think that they both have what it takes to make state title runs. So you might see me at Cedar Ridge and Cedar Park. We will see. I'll let everybody know out on Twitter land. All right, college football, real quick before we end this thing. Mm-hmm. Texas Longhorns, impressive last week. Have LSU this week. Texas A&M, impressive last week. Have Clemson this week.
Yeah.
A&M's on the road.
Yes.
Texas at home.
Yep.
Obviously, an A&M on the road win over the national champions would be a more impressive win than the Longhorns at home against the LSU Tigers. You're kind of thinking about that, Paul. You're not in agreement?
Depending on the fashion of the victory.
Here we go. The Paul Rodriguez.
It's significant. And the reason it's significant is because let's just take the comparison last year of how A&M lost a 2-point game to Clemson early in the season, but then at home versus LSU goes to 7 overtimes and pulls out a 5-point or 6-point victory. Mm-hmm. And I kind of put that into consideration. It's like, okay, well, it was A&M underrated due to the fact that they had 4 losses on the season, but had a narrow loss to the defending national championship in Clemson Tigers, and then pulled out a 7 overtime win. And that's where I kind of think about that, and I transition to current day, and it's like, okay, if A&M goes in and beats Clemson by 3 and UT beats LSU by 21, what's the more impressive victory? I would say the Longhorn victory over LSU. But that's why I need to know, would it be more significant for Texas to win at home? Well, my metric says it is. If it's a 21-point home victory, it's more significant than if it was a 10-point victory on the road.
And what was that name of that metric scale there?
I think, have we named it? We're looking for sponsors to name that metrics. So anybody out there listening, if you'd like to have that sponsored by the P-Rod's Power Rankings, Power Index, we can go ahead and get that taken care of.
Yeah, P-Rod Power Index. We also got some Recon ratings out there as well. Those could use a sponsor. That's going to be for the kids. I kind of like that, Paul. You going to stick with that?
That'll be just as far as the Recon ratings. That'll be dropping October 1st. So that's coming soon. And as far as the P-Rod Power Index, that's going to be something that definitely is going to be taken into consideration throughout the season in all levels of competition.
All right. So we're saying, or P-Rod, you're saying 21-point victory for Texas at home. Obviously, it would be huge.
Yeah.
That would be better than an A&M victory at Clemson by 3. I don't see the Longhorns getting close to that if they win, but I think any type of win for the Aggies on the road against Clemson would be short of a 21-point victory, I guess, for the Longhorns. I think that's just going to be will do a lot more for the Aggies than it would for the Longhorns, in my opinion.
Yeah, and my biggest thing is what I'd like to see is many of the talking heads on all the national brands are saying that Kellen Mond is the best quarterback in the SEC. And we had the discussion last week about Trevor
Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence, thank you. Him being the best quarterback in college football at this time. I don't think Kellen Mond is the best quarterback. I think the best coach that night will be Jimbo Fisher, but Dabo Swinney has the recent rings. But again, I don't overlook this part of the coaching matchup between Dabo Swinney and Jimbo Fisher. Jimbo Fisher was beating Dabo Swinney and letting him cut his teeth early on when Dabo was a coach at Clemson and learning while Florida State and Jameis Winston were winning titles. So I think Jimbo's going to have some things that maybe he missed last year or maybe the A&M quarterback came up short on because his accuracy wasn't there last year. His accuracy has improved this year. He still has big targets. He still has otherworldly running backs with speed to go where they recruit out of. And I just think that if the ball bounces the right way or if A&M can get an early stop and get an extra possession, A&M could probably win by a field goal.
And, going back to Kellen Mond being the best quarterback in the SEC, I mean, does that really say a whole lot when you're the best quarterback in the SEC? I mean, it's just like being the best defense in the Big 12.
Yeah.
Does that really – is the SEC known for quarterbacking?
No, it's not. It's really not. But Jimbo Fisher creates and demands a lot in his pro style offense, which translates to the next level for his quarterbacks. And I will say this: when I watched A&M play the 120th ranked Texas State Bobcats, he was holding his players accountable on the field like a coach would on the sideline. So that's one part of the maturation I did see from Kellen Mond. Now, let's just see if he can do that against the number 1 ranked team in the land.
Predictions.
Clemson over A&M. 38-21.
Wow.
And the Texas Longhorns beat the LSU Tigers on the back of Mr. Sam Ehlinger, 24-21.
Am I going to really pick against my Texas Longhorns?
I don't know, Chris. I don't know, sir.
I think the Longhorns. I don't know. My dad might be listening. So, Dad, turn it off right here. Go ahead, press pause.
Before you make your statement, let me just remind you of one thing that we got to watch at the beginning of the year, of how Sam Ehlinger took over that bowl game against Georgia and handled his business.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But I think the LSU Tigers are not getting their due right now.
All right.
I think they haven't been hyped up like they should be. It's LSU.
Yeah.
And, of course, the Longhorns are the Longhorns. I mean, they're always going to get all the hype no matter how bad the team is. Not saying that their team now is bad. Their team now is good.
Yes.
I think their team now is really good.
Yeah.
Running back, a question. You have Keontae Ingram, but after that, they're not sure what to do. What I don't want to see is Sam having to run the ball a whole lot.
I think that's what he's going to have to do.
And that's what I don't want to see.
Yeah.
So that's what, in my opinion, could eventually get Sam hurt, especially against a team like LSU.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go LSU wins this one 31-24. Also, the Aggies lose 56-0. No, I'm just kidding. The Aggies lose, I want to say 38. No, I'm going to say 31-21.
Okay.
Like that?
Yeah.
All right, Recon Podcast, Episode 5, Chris Sanchez, Paul Rodriguez. We're going to be Friday night, maybe Friday night, Saturday morning. You'll hear us. Make sure we'll put it out there. And make sure that you get out there and like and subscribe to everything. Paul, do your little thing.
All right, everybody. If y'all are enjoying that podcast, please like, comment, subscribe. Don't forget to turn on that notification bell so we can let you know when we drop the podcast. Also, check out the Instagram. We're always putting up information up there for y'all.